So, but yeah, the most important thing is that you now have the opportunity to ask some questions. I would ask you to just go one after the other and just introduce yourself, introduce your film, so everyone knows exactly who you are.
Okay. I'm Jeff Brooks, the director of Daylight Follows. I had the privilege of meeting Rick and Irving. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the film.
Hi, I am Esin Özalpostür from Turkey. My film was Harvest of Life. It was about seasonal workers who work near to the capital in a really harsh conditions. I hope you enjoy the film.
I'm Kaz Anstey, and I was one of the directors that made Edifice 129. We had a few technical issues with the sound on it, unfortunately, and this is Linda also.
I am Linda Kassa, also one of the 4 directors of Edifice 129, the building with the
and I'm Ben Schwecke. I was the director and grandson of the subject of the film, Roger.
Okay, now go ahead. Any question you may have for them? It's up to you.
As a question for Kaz, actually, is how hard was it to sort of, all the different directors involved, how hard was it to put everything together and make something coherent at the end of it?
It was time consuming. The basic thing at the end of the day was that we had started out with 7 directors. We came down to 4 who could really work together and compromise and set aside ego, and because of that we were able to get through it. But we went through multiple editors, and yeah, it required a lot of patience and a lot of supporting each other, I would say, to get there, but hopefully it was convincing in the end. Yeah, what do you think?
but really among it was very collaborative. So it was a long process, but there was no one pushing their own work in the front and wanting to. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's very coherent, because there was a lot of respect among each other, and everyone was working for the film and not to put themselves up front. I think that's a big portion of that. Yeah.
It's good.
I have a question for Jeff. What led you to the decision to shoot on film, and was that a hard process to do?
Yes. It was very tricky, but yeah, we shot on film because we wanted all the interviews to be digital, so it felt like it was not today, and then we wanted it to feel like we were going back to the 1940s. So that was the main reason behind it. So there was that juxtaposition. But it was a challenge using film because we only had a finite amount of film, and because sometimes we only had 1 take. Sometimes on the really great occasions we had 2 takes. So yeah, it was fun. You know, it was a challenge, and I kind of, you know, I really enjoyed it. So yeah,
Cool.
definitely be shooting on film again.
I'll actually ask a question to Esin. How big was the impact of the people around you while you were shooting your film? Did they participate in the shoot? Were they hospitable, or were they actually camera shy, or trying to really avoid being in contact with the production and so on?
Yeah. The woman, it was really hard to persuade them to be on the set and in front of the camera, because they were shy. There were many cultural barriers I told you about, and it took really hard time for me to persuade them. But in the end, it was good. But there was some other people who were like, talking so good, but they didn't want to be, in front of the camera. That was a shame, but still I got really good characters.
Thanks so much. Well, yeah, let's do 2 quick questions, and then we need to leave the room. They will hunt us down otherwise.
Question for Ben: when did you decide to make the film about your grandfather?
It's hard to say if I decided on it or if it was forced on me. I'm sure my mother's going to give me a smack for that one. But the idea being that I was trying to figure out what exactly I was going to make a film about. I had bought a pretty bad camera, more of a portrait camera, a Canon 60D, about 14 years ago now. And my mother said, what are you gonna do the film about? And I said, I don't know. She said, well, your grandfather has an exhibition coming up. Why don't you go practice on him? And I started shooting him. Not that any of the interviews were particularly good, or the imagery pretty exciting, but there was something about it that I realized I wanted to go further into, and then I just brought a guy with me a couple years later and worked on some TV shows, brought another guy with me, and before you know it, you've spent 10 years working on a movie about your grandfather, and you suddenly look at yourself in the mirror and you say, where did my youth go?
Yeah, another question for Ben as well.
Apologies, we need to vacate the room, or they're going to kick us out.
Oh.
We do really apologize. But I want to remind you all that the directors will be available also tonight, if they're coming to after party, as we hope they do.